Well, hello, my friends. Today we have a special book to read. You know, when you read books, sometimes they're for enjoyment, sometimes they're to increase your understanding. And there's nothing wrong with doing both at the same time. Now, today's book is written by a lady from Canada named Phoebe Gilman, and the name of the story is Something from Nothing. And it is a Jewish tale from Eastern Europe that has been made into a beautiful children's book that I have the privilege of reading for you today. Now you'll notice here on the front page there is a little boy and his grandfather, and they're going to be the central figures of this book. And you'll notice this funny looking hat on this old man's head. Well, you know, there's something special about that hat. It's not to keep rain out of his eyes or to keep the sun off of his head. Men in Eastern Europe who were Jewish and they were observant of what's known as the Torah would wear this hat as a sign that there was something between, that God was always present, and that hat was a reminder. In Yiddish, this hat is called a yarmulke. And so you'll see the grandfather throughout this story wearing that hat. Maybe we'll learn a few other things about the Jewish people through this story as well. So we opening page tells us the name of the book, and we see that little boy, the grandson, walking with his grandfather. That's a very sweet picture. Now, the little boy's name, the grandson, his name was Joseph, and let's begin the story. When Joseph was a baby, his grandfather made him a wonderful blanket. Now, Joseph's grandfather was a tailor. Have you ever heard of that name before? Tailor? Some people actually even have that as their last name. And so tailor identifies a person who makes things out of cloth, usually clothes. And in this book, something special happens. When you look at the pictures up above, what the people are doing, down below is a mice family. And in this picture, you see the little micey sticking their head in through the doorway. And you see some things down there like there's some needles and there are some pieces of cloth. Yeah, so we're going to keep a track of what the mice are doing in this story also. So grandfather made him this blanket to keep him warm and cozy and to chase away bad dreams. But as Joseph grew older, the wonderful blanket grew older too. One day his mother said to him, "Oh, Joseph, look at your blanket. It's frazzled, it's worn, it's unsightly, and it's torn. It's time to throw it out." Here he is when he's a little baby in his crib. We see going over here where his mother is saying that his blanket is worn out. And down below, you can see the little mice. They're carrying on their little life. I especially like the one where you see the mouse carrying the walnut. You see the nut that the mouse is carrying? They have their own little life going on down there as well. I guess they're Jewish mice. But Joseph did not want his blanket to be thrown away, and he says, "Grandpa can fix it." And Joseph's grandfather took the blanket and he turned it around and around. He said, as his scissors went snip, 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 and his needle flew in, and his needle flew out, and his needle flew in, and his needle flew out. And there's just enough material here to make. What do you think he's going to make? Do you think he's going to make a cake out of the blanket? Maybe he's going to make a pizza out of the blanket. I don't think so. Dove is being silly. The grandfather says there's just enough material here to make a wonderful jacket. Joseph put on the wonderful jacket and he went outside to play. But as Joseph grew older, the wonderful jacket grew older too. And one day his mother said to him, "Oh, Joseph, look at your jacket. It's shrunken and small. It doesn't fit you at all. It's time to throw it out." Now, if you have a real good memory, you see this picture here where the grandfather is walking with the little boy? That was the opening picture of the book, remember? So he's wearing the jacket now. And here they are at the market. And down below, who's down below? The mice. The mice are doing their mice business also. But Joseph, he wasn't going to give up his jacket. And he says, "Grandpa can fix it." Joseph's grandfather took the jacket and he turned it around and around. He said. His scissors went snip, snip, snip. And his needle flew in and his needle flew out. And his needle flew in and his needle flew out. There's just enough material here to make. What do you think he's going to make? My favorite spot on this picture is down below when you see the two little mice children having a tea party on the floor. I think that that's sweet. As an experienced father, I've had many, many tea parties, some with real tea and some with pretend tea. And the grandfather came up with a great idea. And what was that great idea? He was going to turn that jacket into a vest. And Joseph wore the wonderful vest to school the very next day. But as Joseph grew older, the wonderful vest grew older too. One day his mother said to him, "Oh, Joseph, look at your vest. It's spotted with glue and there's paint on it too. It's time to throw it out." This mother is finding every reason to get rid of his stuff. Did your mom do that? Look at this. Now, do you see the mice down below? Well, up above, you see that Joseph went to school with his new vest, right? And all the boys look very excited about his new vest. But the mice are also learning in school. And remember I said that they were Jewish mice? Now, this is just a storybook thing, not a real thing, okay? But they're Jewish mice because on the board they're learning Hebrew, and it says Mazel Tov. And Mazel Tov means like well done, good luck, hooray. I like that. This artist is very smart and interesting. "Grandpa can fix it," Joseph said. This boy really, really believes in his grandfather. His grandfather is a superhero. There is no problem that his grandfather can't fix. That's pretty awesome. Joseph's grandfather took the vest and he turned it around and around. He said, as his scissors went snip, 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 and his needle flew in and it flew out, and it flew in and it flew out. There's just enough material here to make. Oh, this man is a genius. Now I want to show you something that this artist did. Look at this page right here. Do you see the man walking down the street and he has bagels for sale? Do you see that, man? He has 4 rows of bagels and they're held up there with a stick in each one. The stick goes up and he puts the bagels on there and he walks through the street and he shouts to the people, "Bagels for sale, bagels for sale." And that's how he makes his living. He goes up and down through the village, and the name of this village are called shtetls. And this is the Yiddish word for the place that these people live in. Now, back to our story. So now the grandfather is left with the task, right? He had a vest, and the vest was getting too small and was covered in paint and glue. And he decides to make Joseph what? A tie. A nice tie. Joseph wore the wonderful tie to his grandparents' house every Friday for the evening meal for Shabbat. But as Joseph grew older, his wonderful tie grew older too. And one day his mother said to him, Joseph, look at your tie. This big stain of soup makes the end of it droop. It's time to throw it out. And if you look down at our little mice family, you'll notice that they are also having their Sabbath meal. And the mother over here is washing her clothes. Where is the mommy washing the clothes? Does she have a washing machine? Nope. She is washing the clothes in the river. And many people, even to this very day, that's how they wash their clothes. If they're blessed to have a river. Many people don't even have rivers flowing where they live in order to go ahead and wash their clothes. Sometimes it's very hard for people around this world to go ahead and live. We need to be thankful for all the things we have. So the next time you're in your house, you pass by the washing machine and the dryer, be thankful. Always be thankful for the things that you have like that. Well, Joseph, he was thankful for somebody. That person he was thankful for was his grandpa. Because he said to his mother, who wanted to get rid of his tie, he says, no, Grandpa can fix it. And Joseph's grandfather took the tie and he turned it what? Round and around. He said, and his scissors went snip, snip, snip. And his needle flew in and it flew out. And it flew in and it flew out. There's just enough material here to make. Now on the second page, there's a man in the street and he has a parrot. What do you think that man is doing? Well, I can tell you. You see, people back then did not have so much money, and they had to be very creative in the way that they were able to earn just enough to maybe buy one of those bagels from the man on the other page. And so a man like this would go around and he would show his parrot to people, and they would give him small coins. Or maybe the parrot could talk. Maybe the parrot could say, Mazel tov, Mazel tov. And all the kids and the mothers would laugh and they would give him something to eat. Or they would give him some small coins so that he could find a place to sleep for that night. This is what people did before they had the internet and television and all the things that we have now. And that's what the artist is showing us by putting him in our book. So, the grandfather had to go ahead and come up with something else after the tie. And the next thing he made was a wonderful handkerchief. Joseph used the wonderful handkerchief to keep his pebble collection in. But as Joseph grew older, his wonderful handkerchief grew older too. One day his mother said to him, Joseph, look at this handkerchief. It's been used till it's tattered, it's splotched, and it's splattered. It's time to throw it out. The little mice family is out having a day out in the woods in the tall grass. And the mother, she has that fancy bed. You see the bed with the beautiful painting on it of the trees? But you notice that this mother is always doing things. We've seen her do all sorts of things, right? She was washing the clothes. And in this picture, what is she doing? She's sweeping the floor. The mother is always doing things to keep the house and her family in good condition. Well, Joseph wasn't hearing anything from his mother about getting rid of his handkerchief. So he said, Grandpa can fix it. And Joseph's grandfather took the handkerchief and he turned it around and around. he said, as the scissors went snip, 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 and the needle flew in, and the needle flew out, and the needle flew in, and the needle flew out. And there was just enough material here to make, what else does he have left to make? Do you see the child getting bathed in the tub? They didn't have a bathroom like what you have in your house. They would put a tub made out of metal on the floor, and you would heat the water up on the stove and pour it in, and that's how you would get your bath. Maybe a bath only once a week, maybe once every couple of weeks, because it took a lot of work to make all of that warm water, and then you had to empty it out. And do you see who's doing that? The mother is doing all of that hard work, taking care of her children. Well, the grandfather has a piece of material probably about this big from the handkerchief. Not a lot of stuff to work with, but the grandfather is a miracle worker. And his grandfather made something new for Joseph. And he made him a wonderful button. Well, Joseph wore the wonderful button on his suspenders to hold his pants up. But one day, his mother said to him, "Joseph, where is your button?" Joseph looked, and it was gone. Do you see his suspenders? Things that hold up his pants? And then over here at the water pump, his mother again. She's getting water, and you can see that one of his suspenders is broken. It's flying up in the air. And his mother notices that his button is gone. Oh no! Where has his button gone to? Well, he searched everywhere, but he could not find it. And Joseph ran down to his grandfather's house. "My button, my wonderful button is lost." His mother ran after him. "Joseph, listen to me." Do you see Grandpa? Do you see how shocked he is on his face? The big surprise. Where's the button? You see his mother running down the street. "Joseph! Joseph, listen to me." She's going into the grandfather's shop. The button is gone. Kaput. Even your grandfather can't make something from nothing. Joseph's grandfather shook his head sadly. "I'm afraid that your mother is right," he said. Well, the next day, Joseph went to school. He said, as his pen went scratch, 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 scratch over the paper. There's just enough material here to make. What do you think he's going to make? What do you think he's going to make? There's just enough material here to make a wonderful story. Do you see the mice down here? Do you see the mice? They were with us for the whole story as well. Well, that's a great story. So what did we have? We had a blanket, then a coat, then a vest, then what? A tie, and then a handkerchief, and then a button. Finally, a story. Did I miss anything? Did I leave anything out? You know, the most precious thing out of all of that, the blanket and all the things that came after the blanket were awesome. They were wonderful. But what was left was the memories. Joseph always loved his grandfather. His grandfather was was a marvelous man who was able to always fix the problem. But even when it was unfixable, Joseph had grown up. And the one thing he was able to make out of his loss, something from nothing, was this great story. Now, maybe this story actually happened somewhere and it became a story, like other stories, like Hansel and Gretel or the Three Little Bears. And it got passed on from one person to another person. And finally, this artist and storyteller made this wonderful book. And here I am reading it to you. So maybe this actually happened 100, 200 years ago. And it's in this beautiful book. And it's a story that you now know. And someday when you grow up to be a mom or a dad, you can tell the story. Even if you don't have the book, you can just tell it to them from your memory. That's pretty cool. I wish that you have a wonderful day. And remember, wash your hands and brush your teeth. Bye for now.